Penny.
Yeah. Well, there's so much. I hardly know where to begin. First of all, I've seen like one little bank after the next going down. There isn't a big crash because the people in pulling the strings don't really want a big crash. They don't want, if there's a big crash, there's going to be big pushback. They're trying to avoid that, but they're taking down one little bank at a time. So that was one thing. The next thing that I've seen that I've tried to fit in there was that I didn't see the Fed. So what you were just reading from Cliffy was in alignment with that. It was like, okay, what happened to the Fed? It looks like they went belly up. So then that was immediately followed by big trouble in BlackRock and Vanguard, and seemed like there was somebody else, but I didn't pursue that because I thought it's too much. It's not possible. Although there are lots of things happening and have been for the last 3 or 4 years that if somebody had told me 10 years ago were going to happen, I would say, no, that's not possible. So I see the Fed as bankrupt. I don't see it there. I didn't have a timing on that, but I thought that was going to be obvious by like November, by election time. So it could be sooner, it could be later, but I don't think they're going to survive. And when I tried to see what was the linchpin that pulled that out, I kept running into it was set up and that somehow Trump was involved in that. So I don't really understand how that's all going to work out, but I just say what I see and leave it alone. And then I watch and I learn. So that, the Fed thing hasn't really been there. I did see, and this goes to the vision that I had last week, full blown, lasted a whole day. And I had been thinking about, I had been doing some work, and it was very intense work about, it's too complex to really go into, but what I got down to was I thought that it looked like everything and everybody was a clone or a double in the government. And I ended up going back to see where that began, and it began with John Fitzgerald Kennedy. And the picture that came was that he faked his own death. And I thought, well, that's just not possible. So I left that alone. But then the next day after that, seeing that and thinking, what do I do with that? Why would that come up? I had this day where I think I was in the future for an entire day. Our world, the United States was quiet. It was peaceful. Everybody was working. Nobody had any money. Everybody was growing food, trying to feed themselves and their neighbors. People were rethinking everything. It was like, okay, we've gotten rid of the corruption. It's gone. We can relax a little bit. And it was the most marvelous day. It was extraordinary. And I was like, oh my gosh. Later, when it ended when I went to bed and went to sleep that night. The next day I got up and I was back in kind of a stress mode, like, what's happening? Why are we going through all this? I could remember that, and I could kind of touch that same feeling of ease, that feeling of, oh my God, we did it. We made it. We're okay. We're going to be all right. Everybody's working together. I loved it. But it looked, after I got up the next day, it looked like that's a possibility, but that's not a for sure thing. If we want that, we're going to have to make that happen. And